we're going to introduce our speaker for tonight, Mr. C.Y. Saw Chen Yan. He's the lead trainer for Excellent, and he's also a chartered market technician, CMT's chartered holder. He has over 8 years of training experience in local and international stocks and futures. And he's also a certified HRDX trainer and also NLP trainers as well. He's a performance coach with extensive experience in coaching individuals with performance improvement, behavioral change, self-empowerment, and personal breakthroughs. Now, his specialties is in training system and strategies, training psychologies, and also coaching. Now, without further ado, please allow me to pass it over to you, CY.
Hi, good evening, everyone. How are you doing? I hope that everything is fine and doing well on your side as well. Okay, so today's topic is about the art and science of trading. So in today's webinar, we are going to see trading from different perspectives, from the art perspective as well as from the science perspective. Now, I believe today some of you here have been trading for a couple of years, and some of you here are just starting trading your journey. So regardless of what background or trading experience you come from, somewhere along the line in your trading journey, you will probably encounter some challenges or even questions like, is there a faster way to learn trading? Whether can you speed up your learning curve in trading or not? How to identify trading patterns as accurately as possible, or whether there is a scientific approach towards trading. There are also times you may even ask that, whether can you trade a more structured and more systematic way. So some of you may have learned that trading is like an art, right? Because you need to draw lines here and there, like support and resistance lines, trend lines, to identify chart patterns. And some of you may have heard before that trading can be like a science. So anyway, keep an open mind because this topic is actually quite wide. So in this webinar, I am not going too deep in the details, but I'm going to share with you from a bigger perspective so that you can see trading from different angles and perspectives. And by the end of this session, you will understand which area in your trading that you can actually improve on. And once you are able to identify your weaknesses, you can take the necessary actions to, to correct it and make improvements so that you can become a better trader. So let's get started. Now, as you know, this webinar is for educational purposes only. So just to give you a quick understanding, to widen your horizon and exposure about knowledge in trading. So just a quick disclaimer where this presentation is for educational purposes only. I believe Ting Ting has already introduced me. My name is CY. Now, before I enter the main topic, let me ask you some questions so that you can have a clear direction of understanding today's topic better. Now, ask yourself this question. Do you know the difference between arts and science or not? So if you know the answer, you know the difference, you can actually type the answer in the chat box. If you understand the difference between art and science, you can type in yes. If you don't really quite understand, you can actually type in no, so that later on I will reveal to you what is actually the main differences between arts and science. A lot of people, they think that science is a very complex thing, and arts is also something that you might not really like. So later on, I'm going to give you a clear definition behind this. So I see a majority of you understand arts and science, right? So most of the time people see science, they will refer to mathematics, those hard science like biology, chemistries. Whereas arts, most of the time we were just referring to drawing, right? So later on, we are going to see what their differences actually is. Now, the second question for you is that is trading an art or is a trading a science? If you think trading is an art, you can type in art or A. If you think trading is actually a science, you can actually type in S in the chat box. If you're not quite sure, you can just type in no here. So oftentimes when I ask about whether trading is an art or science, right? Usually I get quite a mixed answers. Some people would say it's an art. Some people would actually say trading is a science, because both of the answers are actually correct. Or if you say trading is both art and science, it's also correct. It depends on which direction or which perspective you're actually coming from. Okay, but as I ask this question and get mixed answers, right, I noticed something quite different behind these answers. When I ask probe further into asking people, why do you think trading is an art? Why do you think trading is actually a science? So later on, I'm going to explain it to you later. Now, this webinar session, I will organize this in 4 main topics. So the first topic is about understanding the art and science in trading. I will first define these two different terms so that you can easily follow me in the next topic. And the second topic would be the science in trading. I will share with you what are the things in trading that can be as scientific as possible so that you can simplify your trading and most importantly, get consistent results. And the third topic would be the art in trading. This is important as well, because once you know how these things influence your trading performance, you can actually make the necessary improvements to actually better your trade. And lastly, I will share with you a framework how you can actually integrate both arts and science to speed up your learning curve in trading. Okay, so are you ready? Now let's go into the first topic. There are some terminologies and words you need to know first so that all of us can have the same definition and understanding and speak the same language. Now, before that, let me share with you the 5 stages most traders and investors face. And this is actually the general stages that each and every one of us would have to go through, whether you actually very experienced in the trader or those successful trader. Each and every one of us more or less will have to experience all of these 5 stages. Now let's start with the first stage, whereby in the futures market, right, you start with trading one contract lot, for example. Okay, let's go through these whole stages by trading one contract lot first. Now, in the first stage, you are actually making losses in your trading because you haven't know how to trade yet. You do not know where to enter or even exit at the correct level or at the correct price. You do not know how to cut loss yet. So, which is why you run into consistent losing streaks in the futures market. And this is where you start to learn from your lessons from lesson 1, and you progress to stage 2. Now this time you improve your entry as well as exit point. You set your cut loss point, but you are not executing all of your trades correctly yet. So for example, you know where you should enter your trade or exit the trade, but you're still quite hesitant to to pull the trigger or make decisions when there is a clear signal for you to enter or even exit the market. You are quite reluctant to cut your losses when you know you should have cut losses, but overall you are already making some improvement and progress as compared to stage number 1. Okay, because why? You are now having lesser losses, and this is where you slowly to progress to stage number 3, where you are breaking even in your trading. You follow your trading plan and you follow your trading rules, your trading strategies. You make some money here and there and lost some money as well. But overall, you're actually breaking even. And here in stage number 3, you have been developing a little bit more trading discipline. Now, soon enough, you will proceed to stage number 4, where overall you are making a little bit profit. you still continuously improve your entry as well as your exit point. You practice your trading discipline even further. And lastly, you reach to stage number 5, which is, all of us, I believe, whether you are experienced trader or beginners trader, you want to go to stage number 5 as fast as possible, right? So in stage number 5, finally, after some period of trading, you are able to generate consistent profit because your trading strategy and trading system actually works. You execute your trades correctly and you follow your trading plan strictly with the necessary discipline. So overall, from stage 1 to stage 5, it takes time for you to get from stage 1 until stage 5. If you have the proper way to trade, you can speed up the learning curve very fast. All you need to do is you need to give yourself some time as well as patience and putting in some effort in doing trading. Most people just don't have the patience to develop the necessary skills, and they want to see immediate fast profit from trading. So which is why they throughout their whole trading career, right, they are never able to reach stage number 5. Now my question to you here is that, is stage number 5 the end of it or not, or there is a further stage that you can go even further? If you think that there is more than stage number 5, you just type in a yes in the chat box. So most of you, I see some responses coming in. Very good. In fact, after stage number 5, right, because now you're trading one lot by going through stage 1 to stage number 5. So after trading one lot, you have a consistent profit. So the next thing that you would want to do is actually to scale up your profit. Now, what do I mean by scaling up profit is that, because remember, initially you started with one contract to get to stage 5. Now you want to scale up your trade by trading 2 contract lots and repeat the whole process again. So you heard it correctly. You still need to repeat the whole process again from stage number 1. But this time, the process is actually a little bit faster because earlier in stage number 1 until 5, right, you have already developed and improved your trading skills. You have already developed the necessary trading discipline, so you can go through these stages a little bit faster. So how you trade 2 contracts is actually the same how you would actually trade 1 contract. And the difference is that your profit and loss is multiplied by 2 times, right? Because you're trading 2 contracts, 2 times the profit as well as 2 times the losses. So again, it takes time for you to make the necessary adjustment to cope up with this kind of profit and loss impact. So when you achieve stage 5 of consistent profit with 2 contracts, you slowly increase to 3 contracts, start the whole process a little bit more faster, and then so on. Now, you must be wondering how you can actually progress from stage 1 to stage 5 in the shortest period of time, correct? And the concept is actually very simple. I will explain this in the next slide. But first, you need to understand the differences between arts and science. Now, a lot of people would think, arts referring to, drawing, correct? And science refers to mathematics, biology, chemistry, or physics, those things. In fact, art is like drawing. It requires judgment, and different people would actually perceive things differently. For the same piece of art, right, different people would actually see things differently. And things that look, for example, things that look average for others, right, might be look perfect for you. Whereas for science like mathematics, or things that people have already gone through a lot of researches as well as experiments and found out that the same conclusion or the same results are proven the same thing over again and again. So this is what we would actually call it as a science, correct? Now let's look at their differences between the arts and science. Now, of course, for arts, because of the differences in perception, it is considered as a subjective. Different people will have different judgment. However, for science, it is actually very objective. 1 + 1 must equals to 2. Okay, so it cannot be any other answers. Arts is actually based on feeling and intuition. So if, for example, you are feeling good today, you will see things positively, you do things even better. On the other hand, if you don't feel good today, you would see things negatively and you will respond to things in a negative way as well. But if for science, it requires proof as well as evidence. You need to follow a strict SOP process in order for you to do science in a scientific way. Now, for arts, usually arts also got do prediction, okay? But the differences between prediction in arts and science is that arts usually do soft prediction without a solid basis. Whereas for science, science make forecasts based on past historical data and it has to prove it with a solid evidence. And lastly, as you know, arts, when you draw something, hardly you can actually get the consistency over again and again. And you cannot produce the exact same results consistently. But for science, no matter how you calculate, for example, 1 plus 1, the answer is always be equals to 2. And you can produce the same results many times. You can actually scale the same thing over and again as long as you follow the correct formula, as long as you follow the steps correctly. So the key point that I would like to highlight to you is that it's easier for you to do things in a scientific way. Okay, so I give you some time to follow the key points that I have just highlighted to you, and I give you about 5 seconds to digest this information before I move on to the next slide. Now, as you know, science is easier to duplicate, right? Now let's apply the same concept in cooking as well. So for example, you want to bake a cake. Can you actually produce the same results over again and again or not? And you may be asking yourself, right, is cooking an art or a science? If you are able to answer this, right, I believe trading would be considerably the same concept for you. It's very easy. Okay, so some of you may say cooking is an art. Some of you might say cooking is actually a science, correct? Because especially for fine dining, it has to appear and look good first. Only you can have a good appetite, right? But for example, if you were to learn cooking, do you learn cooking based on arts or do you learn cooking based on science? So let's say you want to learn how to bake a cake, and how can you learn to bake a cake as fast as possible? So some of you, for example, in your maybe your mother's age or grandmother's older seniors, when you want to teach cooking, right? All you need to do is just to agak-agak to put whichever amount of ingredients as you like it, right? So in the end, right, the formula is you agak-agak put this, you agak-agak put that, and will you be able to produce the exact same results over again or not? And probably I believe you may have got the answer already correct. The results that you get is actually quite less likely to be same if you do it 10 times, correct? But if you learn how to bake a cake systematically by following a proven recipe, okay, even including the decoratives and as well as the steps of doing the cake, all you need to do is actually to follow it, the steps as closely as possible. And will you be able to produce the same results or not? Well, maybe, but at least the results that you get is actually quite similar to the results that you expect, right? It's actually quite close to the result that you want. So conclusion here is that, if you do things the scientific way, if you do things with a systematic a way or approach that has been, laid out with the steps, the sequence in a structured manner, then you can actually get the outcome or the results that you want to get. Now, for example, if you want to draw a human figure, Okay, let's say if you're going to draw a human figure, probably you are going to draw it this way, right? I believe some adults, including me as well, I'm not good at drawing, but I will end up drawing a human figure this way. So here you can see that the body ratios, right, are actually all of it are out of proportion. The head is actually bigger than the body. The mouth is actually bigger, and the hands and legs are just like a stick. Okay, all of it are actually out of proportion. It is quite similar to a kid's drawing. So if you haven't learned how to draw correctly, this would be generally how you would be drawing a human figure. But for those of you who have gone through a good arts lesson before, your teacher may have teach you how to draw it in a systematic manner, okay, where the human figure is actually all in a proportion, correct? It's easy to draw a human figure because you have a step-by-step approach to draw in a way that is systematic. And in fact, art can also be converted into systematic and a step-by-step approach for you to learn as well as duplicate the same process over again and again. So here you can see that arts can be learned in a very fast manner if you learn it in a scientific manner. Now, another example that I would like to highlight to you is that, if you were to read history books, right, you may realize that many of those great scientists are actually a good artist. Okay, you heard it correctly. Many of the great scientists are actually good artists because as they do their science thing, right, they need to be able to visualize correctly, and they need to map it out and draw it out so that they are able to produce the real physical thing as the same as what they draw. But hardly, right, it's actually the other way around. Not all artists can be actually a good scientist. Now, let's come back to trading. I believe the majority of the people here, you here actually use technical analysis, am I right? So can you tell me whether technical analysis is an art or whether technical analysis is a science? So if you think technical analysis is an art, you can type in the chat box as an art. Or if you think technical analysis is actually a science, you can type in science in the chat box. Let's see what would be your perspective about technical analysis, because over the years, technical analysis has been evolving a lot. So most of you would say science. Nobody say arts. Okay, very surprisingly, because technical analysis also requires you to draw lines, right? So those are actually considered as art already because it requires you to draw. Now, let me share with you the development of technical analysis. Okay, let's look at the general timeline of how technical analysis develops. So of course, initially there is a beginning of exchanges. There are stock exchange as well as futures and commodity exchange. So the main purpose for example, stock exchange is actually to raise capital, whereas for the futures market is actually to trade commodities. So this is where a lot of people or even what we call speculators, right? They just trade randomly with an expectation to make money out from the exchange market. So they don't have quite a lot of knowledge about trading. All they do is actually just to speculate. And later, there comes one of the popular story, which probably you may have already heard before, which is Jesse Livermore, which is one of the famous stock trader. So this stock trader, he actually uses price action by looking at the price behavior in trading. So this is where people started to begin to realize that, okay, there is a pattern in trading. You can actually look at price pattern in order to make money from the market. And somewhere along the line, a group of market practitioners, they found out that by just using a ruler and pencil or even pen, right, as long as you are able to draw a line, which is the horizontal line of support and resistance line, as well as if you are able to draw a trend line, you can make money from the market already. And in later stage, there are a group of some mathematicians or some people who are actually good in mathematics, they use math to develop models in terms of trading the market. So which today what we call it as technical indicators, for example, like the moving averages, MACD, RSI, and many other indicators. So in fact, majority of the technical indicators, right, are actually mathematically based. And soon, later on, with the advances of technology, when technology improves, computer systems are even better. So this is where people learn how to write software. They program those mathematical formulas into a program or into the computer. They are able to do back testing to test and develop different kinds of strategies in order to trade the market. And if they found that if the trading strategies is profitable, then they will be able to use it. If the strategy is not profitable, they will just abandon it and find another strategy to trade the market. So here you can see that the whole development of technical analysis, the timeline of how technical analysis develop across the years. So generally speaking, we can see that in the past, technical analysis is actually skewed towards arts, where you need to actually draw support and resistance line manually. Whereas in the modern days, technical analysis is skewed towards science by using mathematical tools in terms of developing indicators for you to trade. Now that you have already see the development of technical analysis, the arts and science in terms of trading. Now, let's go into have a look what are the science in trading. Now, you have already know what are the differences between arts and science. Simply speaking is that arts are subjective, and if you want to produce the same results over again and again through arts, you know that it is very, very difficult. It lacks of consistency, and you cannot, it is unable to scale. It's not able to scale. So, which is why you can see, though a lot of famous painting, right? There is only one. There is no two famous, exactly the same famous painting, correct? Whereas for science, which is where how our society as well as our culture, our lives are improved through science, because it is objectives, it has a consistency, and you can scale by repeating, by doing the same thing over again and again and get the same good results. Now, with this understanding of the arts and science, now let's look at one of the popular thing that we use in technical analysis. I believe majority of the people who learn technical analysis, right, somewhere along the line, very likely that you will come across this kind of chart patterns. There are reversal patterns as well as continuous patterns. If you were to use price patterns, right, it assumes that as long as you are able to identify any of these patterns, then you can actually make money from trading market, correct? But in reality, is it really true that as long as you are able to identify the market, is it really easy to apply in your trading or not? Okay, so let's have a look with a quick example, and let me know whether you are able to identify any patterns from this chart. So as you take a look at this chart, right? Okay, this is an FCPO chart in 2021. So as you look at this chart, are you able to identify any chart patterns from this or any chart patterns or price pattern from this chart or not? I give you about 30 seconds to spot any patterns from this chart. And if you can spot any or find any patterns, you can just type in the chat box. It can be, double top, double bottom, head and shoulder, triangle, or any other unique patterns that you can see from this chart. So I see some people answering double top, some people see head and shoulder, some people see triangle. Are there any other patterns that you are able to identify or not? Some identify sideways, interesting. And How about triangles? There are many types of triangles in classical technical analysis. So in short, if you can see here that there are many different kinds of answers, and depending on what you're looking at and what are the things that you are actually referring to. And in fact, for this chart, right, it is very hard to identify any chart patterns that actually qualify all of the criteria, because when you learn chart patterns, right, there are, for example, if you look at head and shoulder, you need to have fulfilled the criteria of head and shoulder, then only you are able to classify it as head and shoulder. So in fact, in this particular chart, right, there is no well-formed chart patterns here. Okay, by strict definition, there is no well-formed chart patterns here. All of the classical chart patterns, for example, head and shoulder, double top and bottom, or even triangle, right, all of them are actually not quite well formed. It looks like triangle, but it's not triangle. It looks like head and shoulder, but it is actually not. It does not really qualify as a head and shoulder. Okay, if you were to follow the definition of technical analysis strictly. Okay, now the next question for you is that if you look at the far right hand side, correct, what is the trend right now? Is it an uptrend, downtrend, sideways, or if you are unable to tell what trend is it? Let me know what is the trend right now on the far right hand side. Some say downtrend, some say up, sideways, some say uptrend, right? Of course, trend only three ways, right? So here you can see if you use the art method of technical analysis to identify the market, right? A lot of people come up with different kinds of answers, different kinds of interpretations. So in short, if you can see here that if you depend on the art approach to identify the market, it's actually quite difficult, and you can get many different answers, and no wonder it is hard for a lot of people to make decisions to trade, because it depends on your mode also. When you look at the market, right, if you look at this correctly, maybe you say it's an uptrend, sometimes you say downtrend, or sometimes you may say it's actually a different kind of trend that you want it to see. But if you were to use another approach in terms of identifying the market, right? Another example for you here is, let's say you use a scientific tool, for example, a simple moving average. Now, based on this very basic rule of simple moving average, right? Can you identify what is the trend right now on the right hand side or not? You can type in your answer in the chat box based on the most basic rule of moving average. So the basic moving rules of moving average is actually very simple. Whenever price is above the moving average line, it is an uptrend. Price below the moving average line, it is considered as a downtrend. So let me know whether for this chart on the right hand side, is it an uptrend or whether is it a downtrend? So most of you would actually say it's actually a downtrend, although it is a red candle on the right hand side, correct? But the price, it is still above the moving average line. So here we only have one answer here, which is a very clear uptrend based on the criteria of moving average. Okay, so here you can see that if you were to use scientific tool, the answer that you actually can get is actually either A or B. Okay, it cannot be any other answers, whether it is A or is it your answer is B. So using science approach, it's easy for you to identify what is the trend for the market. Now, another example that I would like to show you is that on cut loss. Let's say you have a long position at this particular, you still have a long position at this point, right? How much losses are you going to cut? Okay, let's say you're still having a long position here. How much losses are you actually going to cut at this particular level? Okay, just ask yourself. Are you going to how are you going to determine your cut loss level? Are you going to determine your cut loss based on points? Let's say 50 points you cut your losses. Or are you going to base on a specific dollar value to cut your losses? For example, lose $500, you want to get out from the market? Or are you going to cut your losses based on how much money you have in your trading account? So some people would say, you have a lot of money in your trading account, right? So at this stage, you do not want to cut your losses, so you can let it run. Or are you going to cut your losses based on your trading strategy? Or a final way, right? Are you going to cut your losses based on your personal opinion? You think the market can still bounce back, so you choose to hold onto your position. So simply speaking is that, whichever approach that you want to do your cut loss, right? The most important thing is that you want to have a consistency in terms of cutting your losses. So in order to have that consistency, would you use the arts approach, or are you going to use the science approach? So if you were to work things backwards, right? Of course, in order to get consistency, you need to use the scientific way in terms of identifying the market, as well as to cut your losses short. Now, in trading, we have two categories of trading tools that we are going to use to trade the market, right? We have an objective tools as well as subjective tools in order for you to use to trade the market. So objective tools are like, those scientific tools that use mathematics, like technical indicators, which is mathematically based. Whereas for subjective tools are like drawing trend lines, support and resistance lines, as well as looking at price patterns. So if you draw your line correctly, you are able to identify the price pattern. If you draw your line incorrectly, you identify price pattern as a different kind of pattern. Now, let's have a look at the subjective tool first. So if you use subjective tools to analyze the market, definitely you are going to have a subjective analysis. So which is where when it comes to decision making, there are lots of inconsistency, because each and every time you look at the market, right, you see things differently. So when you want to make decision, you will get inconsistent conclusion and make inconsistent decision, and you will also end up with inconsistent result, because your decision making is just inconsistent. Make sense? Now, let's look at how about if you were to use objective tools. If you use objective tools, you will likely to have an objective analysis first. With this objective analysis, you will also have consistency in your decision making. And with the consistency in the decision making, you will also end up with a consistent result. Okay, so what I mean consistent result is that if you do it wrong, right, you can either get consistent winning or consistent losing, right? If you know that something that is consistently losing, all you need to do is just to change your objective analysis, so that you can find an approach that can gives you a consistent result. Okay, so with this simple model, it's actually a simple logic for you to understand. In other words, we can also work backwards as well. Okay, if you want to have a consistent result, which of these approach that you are going to do? You need to have a consistent decision making first. Okay, by analyzing the market objectively using objective tools. So in simple words, you need to develop trading strategies and trading systems using objective tools, so that you can have an objective analysis and to get consistent results. A lot of the people in trading, they use a lot of subjective tools, so which is why you will end up a lot of subjective analysis, and ultimately you will get inconsistent trading results. So simply speaking is that start learning how to trade the market using a scientific approach by having an objective analysis, so that when you have a good structure, only then you are able to follow it systematically. Okay. Now, the third topic, now that you have already know what is the science in trading, in this topic, I'm going to share with you what are the arts in trading. So we have already go through, the technical analysis part technical analysis, they're arts and science, but the best thing is the using the scientific approach of technical analysis to trade the market. Now let's look at the art in terms of trading. Now, when it comes to the art aspect of trading, right, it means that you need judgment. It's about applying the knowledge you have in trading, because when it comes to application, you can have different kinds of application. So when you do it over again and again, it becomes a specific skills. And of course, the most important thing when it comes to applying knowledge and whether to determine whether your knowledge is correct or not, it takes time for you to gain those knowledge as well as experience in trading. Okay, so you need to give yourself patience in terms of trading the market. So along the way, as you trade, there are other important skill sets you need to develop as well. So later on, I'm going to explain each skill set in detail in the next few slides. So skill sets that you need includes analytical skills, your decision-making skills, your trading psychology, as well as you need to perfect it through a lot of practice, which actually means you need to consistently trade in the market. So let's go through with the first skill set, which is your analytical skills. So firstly, analytical skills is about how you analyze the market. How you develop the analytical skills is actually through your knowledge. If you don't have the necessary knowledge, you are unable to analyze, correct? You need to have the software in your brain, which is you need to equip the necessary knowledge in order to make interpretation as well as to analyze the market. So to develop this knowledge in trading, you need to be a little bit more well-versed in terms of technical analysis as well as fundamental analysis. And of course, when it comes to knowledge, you need to be really be patient with yourself in terms of learning. It takes time for you to learn. It takes time for you to develop knowledge, and it also takes time to make a lot of revision on your knowledge, because some of the knowledge that initially when you get it, when you learn it, you understand the concept incorrectly. Okay, you get the wrong concept. So which is why it is important for you to correct as well as make revision for your knowledge so that you can straighten out your knowledge. Now, of course, when it comes to trading, we have technical analysis. So, of course, it includes chart patterns, technical indicators, and more. So here, to develop knowledge here is that you need to practice more on drawing charts, doing more on paper trade, as well as testing and developing your trading strategies and systems. For fundamental analysis, you need to do a lot of reading, right? A lot of books, research, as well as doing a lot of deep thinking. So let's say if you are trading FKLI and FCPO, you need to understand the micro as well as the macroeconomic factors of what are the things that affect FKLI movement, what are the things that that affect the demand and the supply shift in the FCPO market. Okay, you need to understand the macroeconomics as well. What is the government fiscal policy? What is the central bank's monetary policy, and how it impacts the market? Now, the next skill set is on your decision making. Of course, many traders and investors are not comfortable in making decision in the market because it directly impacts your wealth level, right? Whether your wealth is going to increase or decrease, whether you make money or lose money. So their decision making muscles is actually still not quite strong yet. So you need to be able to develop your decision making process, like how you are going to decide whether you're going to enter the market or exit the market. And this can actually be done by having a back-tested trading system. Once you are able to have a back-tested trading system as well as trading strategies, you are already halfway victory already. Okay, half of the problem in your trading has already been solved. The only thing that you need to build your decision-making muscles is actually you need to pull the trigger. You need to make the trading decisions and execute it. Okay, a lot of people, they have their trading strategies, they learn a lot of trading systems, but they dare not pull the trigger, dare not execute their trading systems accordingly. So for example, let me show you this chart. For example, let's say you are able to identify that the market is having a resistance breakout, correct? And you expect that the trend is going to continue upwards. So you should be making a buy entry, correct? So some of you might be thinking, at this point, you might be thinking, yeah, the price is too high already, although it has already break up. You want to wait for it to pull back first before you enter the market. Some of you might be thinking that, it is not a real breakout because, at the point when it has a breakout, right, you may be thinking that there is no news announcement, the economy hasn't recovered yet, or there is still a fake breakout. So which is why you do not want to make a trading execution, even though your trading system calls you to buy. So you ended up not making any decision and you miss the trade. So when it comes to trading, decision making is very, very important. Now, the third thing is actually on trading psychology. It's about how you deal with the market. How are you going to deal when it comes to trading psychology? Because when it comes to trading, there will be a lot of things that is actually happening inside your head. There's a lot of things that is happening inside your body, okay, which is your trading psychology, because you are dealing with your hard-earned money. There are many emotions involved, so such as greed and fear, whether you have the discipline to stick with your trading plan or not. Are there things that actually holding you back in making your trading decision, or what are the things that hold you back in terms of pulling the trigger? So there are a lot of things that is the things that you should do, or what are the things that you should not do in trading, but you just unable to follow it strictly. So these are the things, those invisible things are are actually the trading psychology that actually holds you back a lot. So of course, when you trade, emotions will definitely come in, correct? Even nowadays, even though I have been trading for quite some time, there is definitely an emotion. And the most important thing is not about what emotions that actually comes in, because no matter how, we are still human, correct? Emotions are actually very normal. The most important thing is that how are you going to deal with emotions? How are you going to deal with the winning period, and how are you going to cope up during losing period? When you trade, especially when you have positions, you will definitely have to deal with the market volatility. You will be looking at your profit and loss fluctuates along with the market as well. So it's important for you to be able to deal with your trading psychology effectively. And of course, why this is an art? Because it takes time for you to learn how to cope up your trading psychology effectively. Even though you do paper trading, right, there are things in trading psychology you are unable to learn until and unless you have a stake, or you have a real money that's in the market. So this is where you will be actually learning the real things in trading, because it involves emotions. And lastly, as a trader, you need to have an attitude like scientist or engineer. You heard it correctly, yeah? Since today's topic is about highlighting the importance of trading scientifically, right? So as a trader, you need to have an attitude like a scientist or engineer. You need to always troubleshoot. You need to always analyze your current situation, how to improve your trading method, how do you improve your how you analyze the market. So it is very important that you have a trading journal that actually records your trade, so that you are able to know what you have already done in the past, so that you can actually make the necessary correction as well as area of improvement. and because of your trading journal that records your past trades, right, you will be able to have, hold yourself accountable so that you don't have to repeat the same mistakes over again and again. So when you have a trading journal, you are able to review your trade as well as the way how you trade. Okay, so all of these are actually the arts perspective, because there are no one strict rule in terms of improving how you trade. There are a lot of ways to do it. So you need to how to say, trial and error to find a correct approach or a proper approach in terms of solving a lot of this area in your trading, in your decision making, about your patience, your trading psychology, and so on. Now, lastly, how can you integrate the art and science in your trading? Now that you have already learned, you have already understand how it is important to find a good trading approach in terms of scientifically trade the market, and you need to also improve on the art perspective as well, because arts and science, both of them actually comes together. It is inseparable. Now, there are a few steps that you can do in terms of improving your trading. Now, the first step, of course, is you need to definitely acquire knowledge, correct? So it's just like cooking lah. You need to find a scientific way or a scientific approach in terms of learning how to cook. You need to get the recipe. You don't care whether the recipe is correct or not, as long as there's a recipe for you to actually stick to it. And of course, you need, when it comes to acquiring knowledge, right, when you learn that specific knowledge, you need to make sure that the knowledge that you get is proper and at least theoretically correct. So a lot of people, they just learn blindly and then they also follow it blindly. Okay, that is not the correct way of learning. Besides learning, you need to also think for yourself and see whether it makes sense and whether is it logical to follow or not. You need to test it out, whether is it correct. So in acquiring knowledge, you need to learn, whether is it through books, through seminars, or even get a mentor, so that you can actually speed up your learning curve in terms of trading. Because books unavoidable. When you go for seminars as well as learning from mentors, right? It is quite limited time, and a lot of these things are actually answers can be found in books. So you need to spend some of the time to read a lot of books in order to find the answers that you're missing in trading. Now, the next thing is that once you have acquired your knowledge, right? Of course, knowledge, we want to learn scientific knowledge as possible rather than learning, agak-agak knowledge in terms of cooking, correct? You do not want to learn those, cooking in terms of agak-agak, because you will need to do a lot of trial and error in terms of getting a good results. So it is faster for you to acquire knowledge that is more of a scientific approach in terms of trading. So when you get that knowledge, you need to practice, you need to do testing. Okay, so as I've already mentioned, science is about always testing as well as experimenting to see what works and what does not work. So when it comes to practicing as well as testing, before you put in your hard-earned money in trading, make sure you back test your trading strategy to see whether it is profitable to use or not. Okay, a lot of people, when they learn trading, they learn a specific strategies or system. Immediately they jump straight right into trading, and then they trade a very big size. So they will ended up, getting traumatized in the market, especially having faced a big losses. They do not know how to handle with emergencies in the market. So it is important for you to be able to test as well as practice through back testing first. Then next, once you have do your testing, you can actually do your trading. So of course, when it comes to practice, you have already learned how to test on it, you need to do the real trade. Now, of course, the good thing about trading is that trade, as you know, that trading is actually a form of business, right? And in all forms of business, trading is can be considered as one of the good business, is because you can do trading simulation. You can do paper trade before you actually putting in real money in terms of trading. Because if you do, let's say, any other business, right, you need to actually put in real money in terms of doing those business. But for trading, you can actually do paper trade. You can also do trading simulation. The practice is actually very important so that you are able to execute your trading strategy correctly. So when you start, when you are ready, you can actually start small first. What I mean by starting small is actually you can start by trading small, okay? Not starting small does not mean you put little money, okay? There are some strategies, right? You need to put, most of the time people get blow up their trading account because they start with too little money, where your strategy may not be able to support with the small account size. So what I mean by starting small is that you start from one contract lot, correct? So of course we are trading futures, right? You are not able to trade with half contract lot. The most minimum that you need to start in trading is actually one contract lot. So start small is actually very, very important. And you will need to go through the 5 stages that every traders will go through, that I have already shared with you earlier. You will be starting from losing a lot of money, and then you learn how to execute your trade correctly by sticking it your trading plan strictly. You lose less money, you break even, and then you make a little bit profit, and then with through time you are able to generate consistent profit. So this is where you are able to progress to the next stage by trading 2 contract lots. So of course, I've mentioned earlier, 2 contract lots, the difference with trading 2 contracts and 1 contract is the things that you do are actually still the same, and the difference is actually um, the profit is actually double the profit. When you lose money, you also lose 2 times the money, which you have not experienced it before. So start small. It is very, very important for you to go small, and then to learn. Most importantly is learning how to cope up with small losses first before you go big. So it's like, for example, when you learn how to drive a car, right? Immediately, when you go to the highway, you don't, immediately start with, going 160 kilometers per hour. You start from, 80 kilometers per hour for a certain time until you're comfortable, and then slowly, and as your experience grow, you slowly increase your speed. So this concept applies to trading as well. Start small, and then start learning how to cope up with the losses mentally as well as psychologically. And lastly, when you trade, is that you need to be able to make review in your trading. Okay, always review what you have already done in trading. And of course, when it comes to review your trade, right, it's a little bit of arts. Why? Because it takes you need to record your trade in your trading journal. So when it comes to reviewing your trade, you need to be able to find what are the mistakes that you have done, what are the areas of improvement. So you need to have some of the problem solving skills in terms of solving your own trading problem. Okay, so when it comes to problem solving, of course, depending on how good a problem solver you are, it takes time for you to find a good solution in terms of finding a good way to solve your trading issues. Review here also includes, you need to review the knowledge that you have already learned. Okay, so as I have shared with you earlier, there are knowledge that you learn initially may be incorrect. So the concepts that you get may be incorrect or totally wrong as well. So a very simple logic, okay, let me share with you. When you have incorrect knowledge, when you have incorrect concept, when it comes to application, definitely your application would be wrong, correct? And when your application is wrong, most likely the chances of making money is actually very, very low, and the chances of losing money is actually very big. So of course, when it comes to review, you need to review your knowledge. You need to straighten out your knowledge so that the understanding about a market is accurately as possible. Here on review, you also need to review on your trading strategies as well as your trading systems. Constantly improve on it so that you are able to trade with at the comfort level that you're okay with. And lastly, you review on your trading psychology. Keep improving on your tolerance. Keep improving on how you are coping with the market emotionally as well as psychologically. Okay, so simply speaking, these are the four main things that you are able to improve on your trading. Always start with acquire the knowledge, make the necessary practice and testing on your trading strategies. Do your trading, start small, and then review whatever things that you can actually improve on. So before I end, let me repeat this important concept. Of course, when it comes to trading, you have tools, right? You have objective tools as well as subjective tools. Subjective tools, you will end up with subjective analysis. The results, the decision making that you do from your subjective analysis, definitely you have inconsistent decision making, and ultimately you will get inconsistent results. Whereas if you were to use objective tools, you can get objective analysis, you can have a consistent decision making, and of course you can get consistent results. And of course, when we want consistency, right, the best way is actually to do the scientific approach rather than doing the artistic approach. So you want to make sure that you are able to develop trading strategies and systems based on the objective approach of trading. Okay, so before I end, let me wrap up the 4 key takeaway points for you. So the first thing, of course, science is definitely more objective, is because you are able to test it over again and again and doing conduct experiment to see whether you can get a consistent result or not. And of course, if you are able to get consistent result, right, if a strategy is good, you can actually trade big with that particular strategy. You can actually scale your trading bigger on that particular trading system. Next is that you can actually trade with science because it has objective tools. You can have analysis that is objective, and when it comes to trading, you can make a consistent decision and consistent results. And of course, trading with arts, it takes longer time. And the arts here, what I mean is actually all of those soft skills. Okay, it takes time for you to develop because different markets have different conditions. So the most important thing is that you need to record your trade and review your trade continuously so that you can have you can make the necessary improvement, so forth and so on. And lastly, the most important in terms of trading is the keyword is systematic and structure. Okay, without systematic and structure, it is very hard for you to find where to improve on your trade. So it's like, when you try to bake a cake, right? If you have a systematic structure for you to change your recipe, right? You know exactly which area you can add, which area you can actually improve on, and which area you can actually do less on, so that you can actually getting the results that you want. Okay, so that's it for my sharing today about the arts and science in trading.